Urinary tract infection, osteoporosis, mitral valve prolapse, eclampsia and vaginal laceration, hot flashes, anemia.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one today. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I am so happy to have each and every one of you here with me again this week. If you are new here and this is the first time you are seeing my face, welcome. I make weekly videos dissecting internet nonsense, so if you're into that type of thing or you like today's video, I hope that you'll consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out the channel and make sure that you never miss another upload from me. Today is gonna be a good one, and honestly, for most of the video, I'm mostly gonna be just trying to hold myself together because the human being we are about to discuss together is honestly just really, really difficult to take seriously. And this was fully not what I was expecting when one of you actually sent me a video clip that just launched me into another dimension. So I'm hoping to share that with all of you today. Please get some snacks. I swear this is the most entertaining thing I have ever found for the channel. The creator in question is one I had never heard of before you all sent me this video. Their name is Vinny Wellsby, but they go by Fierce Fatty online. In their YouTube bio, it says that they are a world-leading expert on dismantling anti-fat bias in diet culture, a TEDx speaker, and best-selling author. How does one get the title of world-leading in dismantling anti-fat bias? Is there a body that bestows that honor upon you? Inquiring minds need to know. When I looked into it further, their website actually says they're a world-leading body confidence and weight bias expert. Who is giving them these titles? If you hadn't guessed it, apparently they gave that title to themselves, which is a fascinating thing to do when your only experience that makes you this expert is being a fat person. If we can be out here just giving ourselves new titles, I'm gonna go ahead and deem myself the world-leading expert in calling out the dumb shit that other fat people say online. Seriously, it's embarrassing. Alright, as I was saying, one of you lovelies out there in my audience actually sent me this first clip of Vinny promoting their podcast on TikTok.
As you've heard me say many times in many episodes, there is no reliable way to reduce your body size. There has never been one study in the history of the world to show a diet that works long term. And so if someone is saying you need to lose weight, well, that is not evidence-based, because there's no evidence to show us what we can do to lose weight reliably.
This fat activist doesn't actually care about that at all. Just the same way we've seen with other fat activists, they don't care if there's actually a study. It's just a nice flashy way for them to feel confident because that has been really hard for people to contend with and debunk. And they specifically make that known when they say this.
And even if there was, having a smaller body will not necessarily protect you from things like genetic predispositions towards certain conditions or illnesses, like type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes. It's so heavily genetic.
I don't know about all of you out there, but I absolutely love when fat activists toss in these little CYA statements. There's no reliable way to lose weight. But even if there were, that doesn't matter because genetics and your predisposition to disease will still get you anyway. This is something a lot of fat activists do, I think because they think it's a clever defense mechanism, like, well, it doesn't even matter anyway. Even if you can disprove me with other studies, it doesn't matter. All that really does is send up a big red flag that whatever you just said is either misinformation or just completely nonsensical. Now, I really thought that I would spend a whole video kind of deep diving into this one TikTok because there is just so much to talk about within it, a lot to unpack. But y'all know me, I can't help myself. I needed to know who this person was, and so I started scrolling through their TikTok. And that's when I found the Holy Grail in episode 128 of the Fierce Fatty podcast called The Benefits of Being Fat. Now, the podcast is an hour long and a lot of it is just rambling nonsense.
La 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 la, continuing with that.
But there were some gems in this that you just have to hear them saying the things, because if I just told you, like if I read the transcript to you, I don't think that you would believe me. All right, so the theme of the episode is the benefits of being fat, and some of them are boring and expected, such as buoyancy, being harder to kidnap, being soft and cozy to snuggle because of all the squishy fat rolls, and being stronger due to carrying more weight around. And then there's this.
And I was thinking about if we're in a like natural disaster like a flood, then it will be easier to not drown in that flood. Or if we're in if it's really windy, gale force winds, we're less likely to be swept away. You know, like in that film Twister, where the cows are being all swept away and stuff.
Did they just compare fat people to cows? Unironically?
Cow. I gotta go, Julia. We got cows.
If a tornado could pick up a cow, it can certainly pick up a fat person. So is that actually a benefit? I don't want us to get stuck here. Hold on. It keeps getting better.
I wonder if you might survive longer. You might be able to make an episode of I shouldn't be alive because I got stuck in the Grand Canyon in some like a weird section, or in the desert because my plane crashed or whatever. And you can be like, listen up here, I survived because I'm a fat mother. And your thin friend died on like day 2 or something. I don't know.
The way that they just shared how they actually feel about their thin friends leaves me with a lot of questions. And I would just like to point out, as I go through this, I am really not taking these topics out of order. They just made this absolute fool out of themselves talking about surviving disaster, and are now hoping that we'll take them seriously as they talk through the more serious health benefits of being fat. I seriously considered making this a troll or no troll style video of just this content, because we are about to snap back and forth so quickly in and out of serious and unserious conversation. Prepare yourselves. Several of these more serious conversations include things that we've already talked about here on the channel, such as the obesity paradox.
And that is called, famously, the, quote, obesity paradox. The obesity paradox being, well, hang on, we all thought fat people were just unhealthy slobs dying left, right, and center. But how is it that fat people can live long, healthy lives? That's weird. It's a paradox.
And I'm not going to focus heavily on that because, again, we've already talked about it. I will try to remember to link that video down below if you'd like to check it out. Because then they made a claim that I've not really heard made yet.
Okay, so fatness is associated with a lower incidence of cancer, overall cancer incidence, cancer mortality, premenopausal breast cancer, stomach cancer, lung cancer, colon cancer, it's not melanoma, it's meningioma, respiratory disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary COPD, pulmonary disease, COPD, which is so interesting because a lot of COPD is like, fat.
Now, you all know me, citation nerd extraordinaire. I could not help myself. I had to go in, find the source material that they shared, and when I did, I found a paper by Paul Ernsberger, as they said, and it's from 1987. I also found that Mr. Ernsberger was overweight himself, thought the BMI was too flawed to use, and thought that calorie counting was futile. Did we just find the first ever male fat activist? Hey everyone, Editing Sam here. I did actually look just a bit more into Mr. Ernsberger because I was just so curious and thought it might be worthwhile for another video topic. And I actually found that he passed away in 2021 at the age of 65. His obituary shares that he was a keynote speaker for many fat activism conferences, like those hosted by the Association of Size Diversity and Health, also known as ASDA, Healthy at Every Size, also known as HAS, and the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance, also known as NAFA. So maybe we did actually find the first ever male fat activist. I was fully not expecting that to happen in this video. We might have to talk about him more, but for now, let's get back to the original video. But in all seriousness, there's a few points in this little section of the podcast that I would like to point out. The first is that they went ahead and cited Reagan Chastain as a source, another person who has absolutely zero credentials to be giving people medical advice on the internet, and yet here we are. They also actually point out that within this paper, Paul Ernsberger is talking about people who are moderately overweight. So we're not talking about people today who would refer to themselves as super fats or infinifats, right? The people that this podcast is trying to relate to, that is not who he was studying and not who he was talking about having benefits like this. And this is an important distinction for me because this person, just like many other fat activists out on these platforms, is purposefully omitting this moderate descriptor because it doesn't benefit them. They are actively targeting super fat and infinifat people on the internet to promote their book, to promote themselves, to promote their classes, and they're making money off of selling these people misinformation and actively hurting people who are larger than they are. Now, once again, I just want to remind you, I did not take this video out of order because I needed you to see how all over the place it was. And after we just talked about something that was so serious, we get to something, another benefit, that's just as ridiculous as fat people not being swept up in tornadoes.
And when I'm sitting, my belly provides a great shelf for snacks. And this person is using their belly as a snack shelf. Amazing. Love it. And also, you could probably, depending on your type of body, using the space between your tits and your belly as a shopping bag, you know, as in, you know, you're going around the house, you're naked, obviously, or maybe you're not, you're just in the store, and you've got you know, your bag of oranges in one hand, and you've got your cheese in the other, and then you're like, oh, I want some Pringles. Where am I going to put them? Underneath your tits, above your belly. Perfect Pringle tube storage. Or any other things. Probably not chocolate because it's going to melt, because it's something that needs to be kept warm. Oh, it's like a freaking little microwave thing, isn't it? It's a microwave oven.
They said all of those things with their whole chest, and then expect people to take them seriously when they ramble their way through research. I know I say this a lot, but I swear you cannot make this stuff up. Just after this, the episode continues to dredge on, telling us more benefits such as fat people being resilient, that fat people are counterculture, and that fat people stay warm compared to their thin counterparts. And I would argue that that's only a benefit until you live somewhere that gets warm weather. There are so many threads on the internet, specifically Reddit, of fat people asking for advice to avoid chafing. So I'm thinking that being real warm is not actually a benefit if you live anywhere that gets warmer than 60 degrees. But the last one I found interesting was they're saying this.
Okay. Next, mental health. It's good for your mental health to stay out of toxic diet culture that can cause disordered eating. is what one person says. Another person says being fat and good with it is a blessing to mental health and wellness. The amount of space that gets freed in one's brain when you stop worrying about food and dieting is immense. You suddenly have so much extra time and energy to focus on things that actually bring you pleasure or move your life forward.
Now, I get where they're coming from, because the argument that they're making is that it's better for your mental health because the food rules and the diet rules are gone. You're no longer having to worry about them or giving yourself anxiety about said food rules. But I think I would argue that it's not better for your mental health, and there are many reasons for that. But for me, it's the fact that we hear so many fat activists talking about just the generalized anxiety they have every day and how much brain space that eats up for them. Things like worrying about if a restaurant is going to have a chair that can hold your weight, worrying about whether or not you need to buy a second seat on a plane, worrying about if a restaurant has tables rather than booths, worrying about if a venue is going to have stairs, if they're going to fit into a desk. The list goes on and on and on. I would argue that these are actually much worse for their mental health. And we see these a lot when we're talking about fat activists here on the channel. And it's a lot of the reason that they're so angry and that they are projecting the way that they feel. It's coming from their internalized anxiety from having to worry about those things all of the time. And I know from experience what that feels like. And it can feel paralyzing. And I think it's the reason that a lot of fat people or overweight people start to isolate themselves, because it's easier to isolate yourself than have to live with that anxiety all the time. I wouldn't wish that anxiety on my worst enemy. This creator is perhaps the most off-the-wall fat activist I have found to date, and I would not have found them had you all not sent me that clip. So thank you to the people who did send that to me. The descent into madness did make me laugh. Like, I had quite a few laughs putting this video together for you all, so I hope that you enjoyed it. But I really struggled. I couldn't understand if this was genuinely serious content or if it was pure satire. And as I made my way through, as you saw today, it became more and more obvious that this person is really, really serious about their content. They've put out more than 200 episodes of this podcast. A lot of the episodes are very similar to this. It's a lot of disinformation and misinformation. It's exactly what you would expect. And I think the reason I point that out is that where this leads me is just to being more and more concerned, because this person, with the capability of the internet, was able to dub themselves a world-leading expert in something that they're not an expert in, create an online business, build a platform where they're now selling this misinformation and disinformation to very vulnerable people. I guess what I'm hoping for is that if people are out there searching for the Fierce Fatty podcast, maybe now my content will also be there, with just a little touch of sanity if they choose to see it. All right, that is all I have for you all today. At this point, I'm curious to know what you all think. What did you think about their list of benefits of being fat? Do you think the benefits outweigh, no pun intended, the cons that we know exist with being overweight? Does this list make you want to become a fat person? Who doesn't want to use their fat rolls as a shopping bag or a microwave? Ooh, that just made me so uncomfy. Anyway, you'll have to let me know what you're thinking, because you know I love reading your opinions, so please leave them for me in the comment section below. And for all my introvert friends out there who do not feel comfortable leaving your opinion in an internet comment section, I see you, I feel you. Go ahead and leave me either a cow or a twister emoji, because I cannot stop visualizing a fat person being swirled around in a tornado like a cow in the movie Twister. Plus, I love seeing your emojis just as much as I love reading those opinions, so please leave them for me down there. As always, thank you all so much for being here with me this week. I will see you in the next one. Bye!